podcasts. Right now, more than half of Americans, 55% to be exact, are regularly using artificial intelligence. Not in some distant sci-fi future. Today, from the emails getting auto-drafted on your phone to the fitness tracker nudging you to stand up. And most of them have no idea it's even happening. Today, we're breaking down the societal impact of AI, specifically what it's already doing to jobs, healthcare and education, why governments are scrambling to catch up, and what all of this actually means for how you live your life day to day. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear picture of where we are, what's coming, and how to think about your own place in this shift. I've got someone here who's been deep in this topic, so let's get right into it. When we say AI is reshaping society, what does that actually mean at the ground level?
So the first thing worth understanding is that AI isn't one single thing. According to a review published in the MDPI journal AI in 2025, there are really two major paradigms. You've got symbolic AI, which is the older, rule-based approach that dominated from the 1950s through the 1980s. And then you've got connectionist AI, which is what powers everything we're talking about today. That's the machine learning, the deep learning, the stuff that learns from data rather than following pre-written rules.
So when people say machine learning, they're talking about that second type?
Exactly. And the MDPI paper actually has a clean definition for it. Machine learning is a field of study that gives computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So instead of someone writing out every rule, the system figures out patterns on its own from massive amounts of data. That's what makes it so powerful and, honestly, so hard to fully control.
And that's the stuff that's now everywhere.
Everywhere is almost an understatement. The AI World Journal's State of AI in 2026 report describes this moment as a defining inflection point, and I think that framing is really useful. It's no longer an emerging technology confined to research labs. It's a foundational force. AI systems are now embedded in core business operations, public infrastructure, healthcare delivery, scientific research, and consumer experiences.
Foundational force. That's a big claim. What does that look like practically?
Think about what the FTFRI Global Survey found at the start of 2026. They surveyed technologists globally and found that 96% of them agree that agentic AI, which is basically AI that can work independently on a task without you holding its hand, will continue to accelerate this year. And it's not just in business. The survey found that consumers are expected to adopt it at near mass levels for things like personal scheduling, health monitoring, even managing grocery orders.
Wait, so your AI is doing your grocery run?
41% of respondents in that EFLI survey said they expect agentic AI to be used as an errand and chore automator, including grocery orders, by the end of 2026. And 52% said they'd use it as a personal assistant and family calendar manager. So, yeah, it's not just answering questions anymore. It's taking actions on your behalf.
That's a pretty wild shift from just a few years ago when we were impressed that a voice assistant could set a timer.
Right, and the AI World Journal report actually captures this well. The conversation in 2026 has shifted decisively from what is possible to what is sustainable, responsible, and economically transformative. That's the key tension. The capability is there. The question now is how we manage it.
So let's dig into that tension, because I think the thing most people are actually anxious about is their job. Like, is AI coming for my career?
It's the question, right? And the data is genuinely mixed in a way that I think is more honest than the headlines usually are. On one side, National University compiled a pretty striking set of statistics in May 2025. 30% of current U.S. jobs could be automated by 2030. And 60%, so the majority, will see significant task-level changes due to AI integration. That's not a small number.
60%. So even if your job isn't eliminated, it's probably going to look pretty different.
That's the more accurate framing, yeah. And the same National University data shows that 23.5% of U.S. companies have already replaced workers with ChatGPT or similar AI tools. And of those companies using ChatGPT, 49% say it has replaced workers. So it's not hypothetical, it's happening.
Okay, but here's where I want to push back a little, because I've also seen research suggesting the panic might be overblown. What's the counter-argument?
And this is where it gets really interesting. The Yale Budget Lab published an analysis in October 2025, led by researchers including a senior fellow from Brookings Metro, and their finding was that the broader labor market has not experienced a discernible disruption since ChatGPT's release. Like, economy-wide, the numbers don't show a collapse.
So, which is it? Is AI destroying jobs or not?
The Yale Budget Lab actually gives us the most useful lens here. They point out that historically, widespread technological disruption in workplaces tends to occur over decades, not months or years. Computers didn't become commonplace in offices until nearly a decade after their release to the public, and it took even longer for them to transform office workflows. So the disruption is real, it's just playing out on a longer timeline than the panic suggests.
That's actually a really grounding point. We're not great at thinking in decades.
We really aren't. And the US Bureau of Labor Statistics backs this up in a different way. Their 2023 to 2033 employment projections show that AI is expected to primarily affect occupations whose core tasks can be most easily replicated by generative AI. But they also note that some of those same fields, like software development, may actually see increased demand because someone needs to build and maintain these AI systems.
So it's not just subtraction, there's addition happening too.
Exactly. And the IFRE survey found that the number one skill technologists are now looking for when hiring for AI-related roles is AI ethical practices, up 9% from the prior year. So there's a whole new category of work emerging around making sure AI is used responsibly. That's not a job that existed 5 years ago.
AI ethics as a career path. I mean, that's kind of wild to think about.
It really is. And the AI World Journal report frames this well. Emerging roles are focusing on AI governance, ethics, and hybrid technical domain expertise. So the future isn't just coders, it's people who understand both the technology and the human systems it's operating in.
Let's zoom out from jobs for a second and talk about the sectors that are being transformed, because I think healthcare is one that people feel really personally about. What's actually happening there?
Healthcare is one of the most consequential areas. A RAND Corporation report published in September 2025 specifically looked at AI's transformative potential across healthcare, financial services, climate and energy, and transportation. And their finding on healthcare is nuanced. AI is primarily operating at lower capability levels right now, but the transformation extends far beyond patient outcomes to workforce dynamics and health equity.
Health equity is a big one. What does that mean in practice?
Think about access. A piece from Project Fresh in June 2025 describes this vision of pairing every individual with an AI assistant that monitors lifestyle factors, aggregates health data from wearable technology, and provides daily actionable insights. The idea is that while human doctors remain central to diagnoses and treatment, routine monitoring and follow-ups could be handled by AI, making them more efficient and less costly. That could close gaps for people who currently can't afford regular care.
So, AI as a democratizing force in healthcare. That's a compelling frame.
It is, and the IFRE survey found that 41% of consumers expect to use agentic AI as a health monitor in 2026. That's nearly half of people expecting AI to be part of how they manage their health. That's not a niche use case anymore.
What about education? Because that one feels really personal to me, like the idea of AI changing how people learn.
Education is fascinating because the Project Fresh analysis makes this observation that the traditional education system has remained relatively unchanged for over 100 years. It describes it as operating like an assembly line, advancing students through a rigid curriculum with limited ability to cater to individual learning needs or speeds. And AI could fundamentally break that model.
An assembly line. That's a pretty brutal but accurate description of school.
Right? And the alternative being described is every student having access to a personalized AI assistant that understands their strengths, weaknesses, and pace of learning. Research indicates that students achieve significantly better results with one-on-one learning. AI could make that kind of individualized education accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford private tutors.
That's actually kind of profound. The private tutor has always been a privileged thing.
Exactly. And the framing from that analysis is important. Teachers would still have an irreplaceable role, focusing on mentoring and emotional support, while more repetitive and specific tasks are handled by AI-driven platforms. It's not replacing teachers, it's changing what teachers spend their time on.
Okay, I want to bring in the governance piece because I think this is where things get really complicated. Like, who's actually in charge of making sure this goes well?
This is where the policy world is genuinely scrambling to keep up. The Stanford Hage AI Index report for 2026 has a whole chapter on this, and one of the most striking data points is that AI-related witnesses in U.S. congressional hearings have grown 20-fold since 2017, from 5 witnesses in 2017 to 102 in 2025. That tells you how fast this went from a niche tech topic to a full-blown political priority.
20-fold. That's not gradual. That's a sprint.
And the Stanford report also notes that in the US, federal policy has actually shifted toward deregulation, even as state legislatures passed a record number of AI-related bills. So you've got this interesting tension where the federal government is loosening the reins while states are tightening them. It's a patchwork.
And what about at the White House level? Because I know there's been some movement there.
In March 2026, the White House released a national policy framework for artificial intelligence with legislative recommendations. And some of the priorities are really telling. A big focus is on protecting children, requiring AI platforms likely to be accessed by minors to implement features that reduce risks of sexual exploitation and self-harm. There's also a push around AI-enabled impersonation scams targeting seniors, so the government is zeroing in on the most vulnerable populations first.
That makes sense as a starting point. Protect the people who can't protect themselves.
And globally, the Stanford report shows that national AI strategies are expanding fastest among countries that had no formal AI policy 5 years ago. In 2024, more than half of newly adopted strategies came from emerging economies. So this isn't just a rich country conversation anymore.
That's actually a really important point. The global dimension of this is easy to miss when we're focused on what's happening domestically.
And the Oxford academic journal Policy and Society published a piece in early 2025 that really captures the governance challenge. It identifies the key risks of generative AI as including hallucination, bias amplification, privacy violations, misinformation, and power imbalances. And it argues that governance needs to be adaptive, participatory, and proactive, not reactive, which is hard when the technology moves this fast.
Adaptive and proactive. That's easier said than done when you're a government institution.
Completely. And that Oxford paper also makes a point about power imbalances. The dominance of big tech is actually being exacerbated by generative AI developments, and that affects policy processes. So the companies building the most powerful AI systems also have enormous influence over how those systems get regulated. That's a structural tension that doesn't have an easy answer.
Let's talk about the everyday person for a second, because I think there's this interesting psychological thing happening where people are both excited and scared at the same time.
The data actually captures that contradiction really well. According to research cited in the AI Impact on Daily Life analysis, 78% of people say they see more benefits than risks from AI, but 80% worry about cyber misuse. So the majority of people are simultaneously optimistic and anxious. That's a pretty unusual psychological position to be in about a technology.
Optimistic and anxious at the same time. That's kind of the vibe of 2026 in general, honestly.
And the same analysis notes that Gen Z is leading the charge in terms of excitement. Younger folks are more enthusiastic than older generations, which makes sense given that this technology has been part of their lives in a way it hasn't been for people who grew up without smartphones.
And productivity-wise, what are we actually seeing? Like, is AI making people more effective at work?
The AI Impact on Daily Life analysis cites AI agents handling the grunt work and boosting productivity by up to 40%. And the AI World Journal report confirms that AI is contributing significantly to economic productivity and transforming labor markets. But, and this is important, the same report notes that traditional markets are facing pressure due to rising AI compute costs. So the productivity gains aren't evenly distributed.
Right, because someone's paying for all those data centers.
Exactly. And the White House framework actually addresses this directly. There's a provision called the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, which is essentially Congress ensuring that residential ratepayers don't experience increased electricity costs as a result of new AI data center construction and operation. So even the energy cost of running AI is becoming a policy issue.
I hadn't even thought about the energy angle. That's a whole other dimension.
It really is. And the Rand Corporation report on sectoral transformation highlights that AI adoption in the climate and energy sector is currently at lower capability levels, but existing applications are starting to explore the potential for sustained autonomous operations. So AI is both a consumer of enormous energy and potentially a tool for managing energy systems more efficiently. That tension is real.
Let's bring it back to the financial sector for a second, because that one affects everyone's daily life in ways people might not realize.
The Rand report is pretty candid about this. Most deployments of AI in financial services are still at lower capability levels, but some systems are beginning to demonstrate higher capabilities, especially in trading and investment, risk management, and customer service. And the report flags that the financial sector's adoption of AI could pose new forms of systemic risk that differ markedly from traditional algorithmic trading. So, there are concerns about market stability.
New forms of systemic risk. That's a phrase that should make everyone pay attention.
And the IFRE survey found that banking and financial services is the second most expected industry to experience significant AI-driven transformation in 2026 at 42%. Only software development ranked higher at 52%. So the financial world is very much in the crosshairs.
Okay, so when you step back from all of this, the jobs data, the sector transformations, the policy scramble, what's the through line? What does it all actually add up to?
The MDPI paper from 2025 frames it really well. It describes AI as having a dual nature. It's both a catalyst for innovation and a source of potential disruption. And the paper argues that what's needed is proactive governance and ethical frameworks to mitigate risks while maximizing benefits. The key word there is proactive, not reactive, not waiting to see what breaks.
And the AI World Journal report said the conversation has shifted from what is possible to what is sustainable and responsible. That feels like the right frame.
It really does. And I think the labor market piece from the Yale Budget Lab gives us the most grounded perspective on the timeline. The disruption is real, but it's playing out over decades, not months. Computers took a decade to become commonplace in offices. AI will likely follow a similar arc, which means we have time to adapt, but only if we start now.
We have time to adapt, but only if we start now. That's the tension, right? The urgency without the panic.
And the actionable piece here is AI fluency. The HFE survey found that the top skill being sought in AI-related hiring is AI ethical practices, up 9% from the prior year. Data analysis skills are second, machine learning skills are third. The people who will thrive in this shift are the ones who understand how these systems work and how to work alongside them, not just the engineers building them.
So AI fluency is kind of the new literacy. You don't have to be a coder, but you have to understand what these tools are doing.
Exactly. And the national university data shows that 20 million US workers are expected to retrain in new careers or AI use in the next 3 years. That's not a small number. That's a massive reskilling moment happening in real time.
Here's what this really comes down to, I think. We started this episode with the fact that 55% of Americans are already using AI regularly, most without even thinking about it. And what we've unpacked is that this quiet, everyday integration is actually the surface layer of something much deeper.
Right. The jobs picture is genuinely complex. Real displacement is happening, but the economy-wide disruption is slower than the headlines suggest, and new roles are emerging around governance and ethics. The sector transformations in healthcare and education could be genuinely democratizing, making personalized care and one-on-one learning accessible to people who've never had it. And the policy world is catching up, but unevenly.
And the psychological reality is that most people are holding two things at once: optimism about the benefits and real anxiety about the risks. And that's actually a pretty reasonable place to be.
It is. The MDPI paper puts it well. AI is redefining human experiences and societal norms. That's not hyperbole, but the redefinition isn't happening to us. We're participants in it. The choice is being made right now by policymakers, by companies, by individuals deciding how to engage with these tools. Those choices are shaping what this technology becomes.
We're participants in it. I really like that framing. It puts the agency back in the room.
And the concrete thing anyone can do right now is start building AI fluency. Not because you need to become a machine learning engineer, but because understanding what these systems are doing and what they can't do is how you stay in the driver's seat rather than just along for the ride.
Driver's seat versus passenger. That's the choice in front of everyone right now.
And the window to make that choice is open. The Yale Budget Lab's point about decades-long disruption timelines is actually reassuring in that sense. We're not at the end of the adaptation period. We're at the beginning of it.
We started this episode with a number: 55% of Americans already using AI regularly, most without realizing it. Here's the thing, that number is only going up. The IFRE survey found that 96% of technologists globally agree that agentic AI adoption will continue to accelerate. This quiet revolution isn't coming. It's already here, in your pocket, in your doctor's office, in your kid's classroom. The question was never whether AI would affect your life. It already is. The only question is whether you're paying attention.
And paying attention is genuinely enough to start. You don't need a computer science degree. You need curiosity and a willingness to engage with these tools critically, asking what they're doing, why, and who benefits.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on Copilot Podcasts. The revolution is quiet, but now you know what to listen for.